Welcome. This is Leading with Spirit, the show that gives you an in-depth look at topics like what it takes to navigate your spiritual journey, how to heal yourself and grow your spiritual gifts, and balanced practices to expand your business and your spiritual leadership. I'm your host, Spirit Bird, shamanic teacher, healer, and author, here to guide you on your journey to becoming your most potent spiritual leader. One of my words for this year is space, and the other word is play. And I start off the year playing with all of these things in my business pretty quickly. And what that play has allowed me to produce in my life, in my business, is more space. And what more space in my life and business has done is allowed me to play more. So I want to share with you something that, a question that I actually get a lot from other people around, like it's kind of one of those chicken and the egg situations where you feel like you want to do something in your business, but you can't do that until this happens, or you need to make more money in order for you to have more time, or some story like that. I had that story too. Or I needed to, have this thing settled, but I needed to be in my house and have my house completely done for me to be creative so that I could grow my business, right? And what I am learning is, in action, how to really step into these places that you'll hear a lot in stereotypical manifesting and like law of attraction statements. What's fun is actually being able to embody these things, because we can know them from an intellectual level and we can tell ourselves the thing. But that's not really helpful, right? It doesn't actually help us do the thing. So when we can actually embody it, then we're able to actually do the thing and see the results. And of course, it's not actually about the results. It's about the play. So let me break this down a little bit on today's episode. So I'll be really direct and clear. And again, I've shared this before. That makes me a little uncomfortable to share like the exact thing that's going on in the inner workings in my business while it's happening, or pretty close to while it's happening. And I feel like there's no reason to hide it also. So what I am playing with is really the energetics and frequency of calling something in from the unseen realm into the 3D via my business. And so towards the end of the year, beginning of the year, I kept hearing the word holy in my awareness. It just like in the back of my mind somewhere, I just kept hearing the word holy, 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 holy. And I didn't know why I was hearing it. I was like, I don't know, maybe the holidays. But I did notice it. And it was around the same time that I was really trying to drop into this concept of play in my business. So essentially what happened energetically, this is what happened. I heard that word holy and I was like, I'm curious. What is this thing in my awareness? And I basically reached back and touched that word. And I began to pull the thread through of an entire energetic and frequency that was attached to that word. And in the process, I began to get downloads about what that event could be and what it could look like and what it felt like and what it meant to me. And I kept seeing images of myself and I kept seeing images related to this frequency. And so I started to play with it. And I was like, ooh, what could it look like? Like this excites me. When I tune into this concept of holy and the event holy, I get excited. I don't know what it means. It doesn't fully fit into my business directly, not in the mind way. So I had several systems in place to help support me in growing my business and saving me time. And this would be a departure from some of those things, or at least different than some of those things. The way I tend to work with people or find people is I have a free webinar and I have lots of different entry points into my business via some of my free guided meditations on my website. via this podcast, via the Facebook group where we get to actually hang out and talk about things together. And then the invitation, of course, is to apply to shaman school so that you can master your spiritual gifts. So we can play more, right? Like basically the whole purpose of my business is to find playmates, to find people who are at the same capacity that I am as far as their ability to use their spiritual gifts, because I want to hang out. I want to hang out in that way. And I can teach you to grow those gifts really quickly. And then also I get to hang out with more people who can interact with me in this way. And that's fun for me. And because it's fun, my business does well, because I'm doing it because it's not about the money, but the money is included, but it's what I would be doing anyway, what I'd want to be doing anyway if it wasn't my business. And it just so happens that what works well for me is that when there's something that I want to do in my life, or I want more of in my life, what works for me is I create an offer. And then I'm able to learn or give myself the thing that I want by offering it to others. That's how I've learned it works for me. Obviously, there's all different ways to do your business, and there's all different ways that work. So in this process of feeling holy and calling it in, it's a departure from me because it's a live event. I kind of got away from doing live events for a little while because I felt like they took a lot of like tedious work to put together, and also required that I show up live and presentable more often. And I really like being able to chill in my house, or not in my house, to be able to chill and do things on my own time, and not have to be on camera if I don't want to, and be able to go do my little secretly magical things, and not present myself. But as Holy was coming through, I realized it excited me, right? Because I didn't have this attachment to the event of like, I need to do this for my business to be successful, or I should do this for my business to be successful. I was able to actually bring it in just with that concept of play, and because I wanted it for me and it felt like it would be fun. And then from there, it was like, well, I've been really feeling into wanting to have a few guests, and like I had to just like do the same thing here and read the energy of, okay, who feels fun and exciting for me to have? And not because they would be good for my business or because they would be strategic partner, but because I actually just want to play with them. And then I found myself reaching out to people that I normally wouldn't approach because of my own stuff with the sister wound, which we talked about, of seeing them as being more established, seeing them as being, more branded or better than me. And as I started doing that, I actually realized that a lot of them had the opposite, that they were also feeling that way towards me. So actually the reach out was like this automatic connection of like, oh, okay, this is okay. We're safe here with each other. Now we get to play. So all of this is adding to the energy of this event. And you can feel it. You can feel it in the branding. You can feel it in the messages. You can feel it in the pictures. You can feel the energetics of what this is without me even having to say anything. But also I say things. And so all of that comes through it. And again, it's kind of cheesy. I hate when people are like, it's not about me, I'm just a channel. And it is, and it isn't. Part of it is about me. Part of it is about me understanding how to use these frequencies and bring something from the unseen into the seen, right? That's one of my gifts. That's what I do with people. I help them grow and master their spiritual gifts and actually bring them into the 3D so they get to use them in a very real way and in this reality, and they get to be seen in this reality. Super fun. I love it. I totally geek out on it. So now I'm learning to play with the frequencies like this and bring them in through my branding and through my business. Now, what that is also doing is creating space for me. Now, where before I would have my energy sort of out, maybe even 3 months ahead. If you didn't know this, I do create a lot of my content months ahead of time. And a lot of times it lands at the exact right time for people. Most of the time it does. Sometimes I even surprise myself. Like I'll record a podcast, and then that podcast episode will air when we're doing that exact work in shaman school. And I'll be like, holy crap, I swear I did not plan that. Right. So that's part of my magic. And sometimes I like to do a little bit of that because to me, I like having it gives me a feeling of spaciousness. Like I have room and time where I never have to produce anything the day of or the next day. And I like to balance that a little bit with having some space within my business where I kind of have gaps that there is no content plan for that. And that is either just so there's space because I like having space in my branding. I like having space in my content and not having to post something every single day, right? Or it gives space to allow me to share something that is actually happening that day, that is like direct from me to you in that moment. So that's one of the ways that I play with space in my business. Now that as through the process of putting together Holy, I basically don't have the capacity to be thinking too far in the future. I mean, I could, but it would start to feel crowded in my energy. So that's what I'm watching. How can I keep my energy feeling really spacious? And one of the ways for me to do that right now is to not worry about further promotions or anything else coming later this year, but to be fully present with this gorgeous thing that I'm creating and that I'm bringing in and I'm bringing to life. So where I normally would try to jump ahead when I find myself in those moments of being like, oh, but what do I do next month? Or, oh, but I haven't figured this thing out. Or, oh, there's all these to-do things that I really would like to get done in my business. I actually can just catch it and say, oh, actually, you're not for right now. You were for later. And I love to use like strategic note or strategy note. I love to use Google Calendar has been a huge tool for me. I used to always write things down and think it was really important for me to have things on paper. I could never even conceptualize having like a digital calendar. I gotta say, I freaking love this because anytime I'm anywhere and I think of something, I can make a note on my phone or on my computer. Then I don't have little pieces of paper all over the place or like notes here and notes here. I can put it on my calendar for when I might want to do it later. Then when I get to, June, there is that idea that I had that I planted for later and I can just let it go. Then I don't have to like energetically hold on to this idea and be crowded in my awareness. And also if I have a to-do and maybe it was on my list for this week, but now that I'm actually present in this week and it doesn't make sense or I don't have time for it, I can just move it to where it makes more sense and automatically create more space for myself by actually just deciding that I don't need to overwhelm myself with to-dos. So let me see here. So this is allowing me to stay really present with Holy. And what it's also doing is allowing me to stay really present with any energetic blocks that I might have around running this event. And so anytime that I start to shift or fall into kind of some negative thinking or self-doubt around the event where I'm like, what if it doesn't work? What if, it's a flop? What if I lose money on it? What if I look unprofessional to other people? All of the what ifs, right? All of the what ifs, because I have specific goals that I've set for myself for this event, because that's one of the ways I play too. When I get into those what ifs, this is where we can become frozen. This is where we can sort of block the results that we actually want to see because we end up getting attached to the expectation. So my kind of belief is that if I keep playing in this place that Holy is enticing me into, really that my end goal would be to have the largest gathering, the largest online event that I have held so far. And also I'm essentially relaunching Shaman School through it, like kind of like a mini relaunch, because I've been tweaking some things both in the program and both in the program and who it's for. So those are my the goals that I have attached to it, but I've also sort of let those go. Like that would be awesome if that happens. But because I'm in this place of play and spaciousness, I am just having fun creating this thing. And even if nothing happens, I will still be being the person that I wanted to be. And that is really rewarding. In this way, I haven't attached to when I meet this goal, then I will be this person. What I've actually done is gone into the future and embodied the person that feels good for having met those goals. And I started being her now. That means, again, it's really sinking into this feeling of play and evaluating whenever I have something on my list. Does it feel inspiring or playful, or does it feel like it's because I'm supposed to or need to? Now, granted, you're going to have moments like that in your business. You're going to have moments where you just need to buckle down and get something done. And what I like to do in those moments, like if I'm feeling the pressure to get something done, I like to just quickly check in. Is this because I feel like I should, or is this because this really is the time that I need to do it? Right. And so if it's a should and there's something else that feels more inspiring in the moment, then I'll do what's more inspiring. And sometimes it's the buckle down moment, and I can just acknowledge that when it's there. I know when it's that time. And also I've gotten pretty good at not getting myself into a position where I overwhelm myself right at the end with too many things to do. So I know that I'm not really in that pattern anymore. And then the other piece with like the version of me that is like has already created this successful event. What I know about how she feels is she feels a lot of spaciousness around it. And so what I'm doing is bringing spaciousness into my life. When I normally would wake up and maybe go for a walk or do something or maybe even hop on the computer right away or like do something on my kind of to-do list, I am making more time in the morning to really sit and be with myself, or to sit and pray, or to sit and have ceremony. I already do that anyway, but I'm just making more of a point to do it now. Anytime that I feel a little crunchy around, when my energy starts to feel tight, that's when I, instead of trying to push and override it, I give myself more space. I move things in my calendar. I reassess when things need to be due. I'm my own boss, so I'm the one that assigns the due dates, right? And so I can actually make those changes and just shift my reality right now. Be like, oh, I don't actually need to do it at this time by this date. This makes more sense in the present moment, and I'm giving myself more space. And I'm living it, right? So there's moments where when I tune into the me that's already there, one of the things that she does is she has a lot of spaciousness in the morning. Whenever I imagine her, she gets up in the morning and she has time kind of hanging out in the kitchen and like being around really good food and having music playing in the house, right? And sometimes I deny myself the opportunity to do that as I get into my to-do. And so what I'm doing to embody that person is I would rearrange my schedule. I rearranged when I take client calls again, because it was time to reassess it. What I was doing wasn't working for me anymore. So I needed to tweak it a little bit. And now I have, a couple days a week where that aren't the weekends, where I intentionally don't work with people in the morning or even for the whole day. And I get to give myself permission to what I call squirrel. I get up in the morning and I get to fiddle with things around the house or squirrel a little bit in the kitchen and do some prep stuff, which I used to save to the end of the day. I used to save all of that until I got all of the things done, and then I would get to play. Now I'm getting to play early, and the things that I need to do get done with a lot more ease. And all of that play and spaciousness is energetically infused into the offer that I'm bringing in. So I wanted to share that with you because, again, this is a question that I get a lot from people where it's like, it does feel like the chicken, the egg. It does feel like I really want to do this thing, but I have to do this thing first. And it does require that you trust yourself, because when I was putting this event together, I have no idea if it's going to quote unquote work. I've detached completely from it needing to work for me to be safe. I could essentially put this whole thing together, have spent a couple months in this energy and it be a flop. And it could potentially put me in a position that's a little bit risky. But I believe that when I get into that place, if I do sort of sabotage myself in that way, if I do get myself into a place that was a little bit risky, I know that I have the capacity to navigate that space and get myself out of it. I will have the information that I need once I'm there to actually make the best decision about what to do about it. And what I don't need to do is spend a lot of energy right now worrying about what I'll do if that happens. And what I know about this work is the more that I can trust that, the more my personal challenge is to listen to those intuitive nudges and just do them and not have to question them, the more I tend to get literal 3D results in my business. It's not why I'm doing it, but it also tends to work, right? And it's all part of the experiment. I'm just exploring here. This is part of the fun. This is part of having the play in your business. I'm just exploring and seeing what will happen if I do this because I'm curious and maybe I won't like it. And then I'll know. And that's it. There's no other story to it. There's no, if I'm moving in this like feminine embodiment way, like this actual feminine embodiment way, and it doesn't work, that I've somehow ruined the validity of feminine embodiment in marketing, right? I'm just seeing if this works or not, what happens when I do this, if I like it, what it feels like. That's it. That's my only attachment, is just simply curiosity and simply learning more things. And in that way, there isn't really a failure. So in that way, I don't have to be so scared about what could happen. And in that way, when the nudges come through, I can just simply trust them. And this allows me, again, to then embody the person that does have success doing it and live that way right now. Giving myself, again, permission to do things, to give myself more space, giving myself permission to reach out to the people that feel fun for me versus feel strategic for me. I'm giving myself permission to, I'm giving myself permission to go out and go shopping once in a while. I know I rarely shop for myself. But it's like one of those really simple, almost silly things that I realized was like put really far in front of me, that when I get here, then it will be okay for me to do this. It was all part of that mechanism. Once I finish my to-do list, then I get to play. Now I'm playing first. Now I'm doing space first, because that is what my future version does. And it feels really good. It feels really good. And so far, I happen to be getting really powerful results from it too. So that is what I have for you today. I would love to hear from you in our private Facebook group, Leading with Spirit. I'd love to hear how you are playing with frequency and energetics in your business as well, what you've noticed about it, and what questions you have about how you too can bring this process into your life and into your business. Thanks so much for joining me today. Welcome to today's Member Query episode, where we explore questions about spiritual paths, intuitive gifts, growing a spiritual business, and shamanism. Do you have a question for us? Send us a DM at Holton Healing Arts. This question comes from a private member of Leading with Spirit, our Facebook group. And the question is around releasing bad habits and addictions. And my recommendation, if you are trying to essentially kick a habit or change a habit, instead of trying to stop doing the thing that you don't want to do anymore, tune into and imagine the version of you that doesn't do it, that just naturally isn't compelled to do it. And really visualize and feel that version of you in your body and feel what it feels like to be them. Because the best way to end the habits is to be the person that doesn't do them naturally versus trying to self-discipline or self-punish yourself into change. I always say that transformation does not happen through shame. It happens through inspiration. So tune into that version of yourself that doesn't do it and allow yourself to feel what it's like to be them. And you'll find changing that habit comes much easier and is a lot more fun. Have you been hearing the call to expand your spiritual gifts and step into your next level of conscious leadership? If you're a coach, healer, or a spiritual leader, you can learn more about Shaman School and growing your spiritual business on our website, HoltonHealingArts.com, or send me a DM at HoltonHealingArts. I hope you enjoyed this episode of Leading with Spirit. If you did, please share the link for this episode with your biggest takeaway, tagging me at Holton Healing Arts. It would also support me if you subscribed and left a rating and review of the show so we can support more people